With Bray Wyatt's asking price for AEW said to be high, this is Wrestling Hub. My name is John, and you're watching the Wrestling Report for April 20th. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Hub and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Wrestling Hub Official, and also follow us on Twitter at Wrestling_Hub. Speaking on Dr. Bo Hightower's YouTube channel, WWE Hall of Famer Mick Foley recalled a time he shared a hotel room with Diamond Dallas Page, and DDP refused to wear any clothes. DDP was the first man to bring thumbtacks into professional wrestling. He didn't wrestle in them. He thumbtacked the blinds to the wall of our $30 motel rooms. He didn't like the faintest peep of light coming in, and also preferred to be naked in the room. We sat him down. Steve asked me if I would address the subject because I had the seniority as far as experience. So I said both Steve and I would feel more comfortable if you wore clothes in the room. I'll never forget his response as long as I live. He just said, "But bro, they get in the way." He couldn't be bothered with those cumbersome shorts or t-shirts or whatever. It reminded me, and I say it during my shows, I suddenly had this great deal of empathy for how Travis, the older brother in the Disney beloved classic Old Yeller film, when he realized he got to take that dog out behind the barn and do what I have to do. So that's what we did, and Steve and I dumped like 4 or 5 dozen cookies in Dallas's bed, waited for her to come back completely naked in total darkness. It took him about 15 seconds to realize he was sharing his bed that night. Let's just say it was a crummy result, but it was a classic. It ended up with him bringing the cookies over to me. He's jumping up and down on me. He's grinding them into me going, "How do you like it?" He's dropping F-bombs, and I thought that's a rhetorical question, but he actually gave me a chance to answer. I said, "You know, Dallas, it's not so much the cookies I mind as it is your naked ass rubbing all over me." He just got up, and he was a defeated man. Hit Row had a great run as a faction on NXT and looked promising when making their way to the main roster. Unfortunately, all members of the group would end up being released from the company. Touching on a time where WWE was coming up with a name for him, Top Dollar told Sportskeeda, true story completely on accident. So they pitched the name Big Dollar, and I hated it. I'm sorry. Pitched the name Big Dollar with an R in brother, no hard R's. I told them nix that. How about Big Dolla? And they were like, well, we already got Big E. And at the back of my mind, I was like, well, you had Big Show and Big E when you had Big Cast, but whatever, you know what I'm saying? They were like, we don't want any more bigs. Alright, Big E, respect. Much respect to that brother, you know what I'm saying? I can understand why they wouldn't want it. Top Dollar would also reveal that he had talks with Impact Wrestling. Nobody knows this, but we did WrestleCon at WrestleMania. Impact was at that hotel, and I'm just saying that there were very good conversations that we had. There are still things that need to be looked at, worked out, and a lot of discussions that still need to be had, but the hitmakers were in the building. Despite leaving the company for greener pastures in AEW, the current ROH and AAA tag champions FTR are apparently drawing interest from their former place of work in WWE. Fightful Select reported that WWE has expressed interest internally about possibly bringing back the team formerly known as the Revival. In 2019, the two passed up what were then huge offers of $850,000 each, with Mark Carrano even mentioning that he could possibly get them to $1 million each before they left for All Elite Wrestling. WWE is unable to approach FTR directly. In terms of when this could take place, John Ross Sapp would write that FTR has plenty of time left on their AEW contracts. Speaking to Robbie Fox, AEW president Tony Khan was asked about having the likes of CM Punk and Bryan Danielson wrestle in Ring of Honor, with him saying, "I would love to see them lock up at some point in AEW. In Ring of Honor, I think we'll have to wait and see. There may be a time where it would make sense for them to come. We have a lot of great stars in Ring of Honor and AEW, so I couldn't promise that. There may come a day where it would make sense for all the stars of AEW and all the stars of Ring of Honor to come together as one and have a big event. We'll see when that time is. I wouldn't count on seeing Punk and Danielson on every show. show. At some point, it might make sense. Speaking about his purchase of ROH, Khan would touch on a rumor that he bought the company to give talent more TV time. It wasn't the core intention in the Ring of Honor purchase. I think the Ring of Honor purchase made a lot of sense because it's a great company. And not only does it have a great video library and great trademarks, but there are a lot of Ring of Honor fans. Frankly, when you talk about dormant fans, I think there were a ton of dormant Ring of Honor fans. When was the last time you bought a Ring of Honor pay-per-view or went to one? I think there were a lot of people who were that way, and clearly the numbers showed, because it had been years since Ring of Honor had done these kinds of numbers. So I think we have rejuvenated a lot of interest in the business, and I do expect that we can continue to do that. In business, they say it is good to buy low and sell high. I think the value of Ring of Honor was not at an all-time high, to say the least. Now, I believe we have injected a lot of life and energy into the business in a short time. When asked about leaving WWE on good terms, AEW star Adam Cole mentioned that it was important to do this. That meant a lot to me, and not just because it's WWE, you know. Of course, you want to leave a good impression with a company like that, but more importantly, again, going off of what we just touched on, I had formed legitimate relationships with these people, not just professionally, but personally. I mean, these are people that I was with all the time, so not only do I really look up to them and admire a lot of them, but I looked at a lot of them as friends. And the last thing that I wanted for them to have a sour taste in their mouth from anything that I did, and honest to God, I owe them so many of them, so much, so for me, it was just such a no-brainer to do things the right way and do things professionally. With him returning at WrestleMania 38 and defeating Kevin Owens in a no-holds-barred match, Stone Cold Steve Austin was asked about plans to WrestleMania 39 on the Brewbound podcast, to which he replied, "For me to participate at WrestleMania 38, if you had told me you're going to be a part of WrestleMania 38, not only that, you're going to main event night 1, I would have said that you're full of it, and you're crazy." There I was, in Dallas, Texas, headlining the event on day 1. Never say never, but I would imagine, with the scope of that show, it's going to be a big show in a big-time city. It will be a 2-night event again. I'm sure I'm done wrestling per se, but as part of WWE, I can't imagine that I won't be there in some capacity. I'm not booking myself on the show, because I didn't book myself on 38. That's a Vince McMahon thing, and I have a great relationship with him. If I get the call, I'll be there. Austin would also touch on his health following Mania 38, saying, "Oh, I'm 100%. I picked up a little bit of a cold the other day, but I'm back home in Nevada. Shoot, Saturday, I was 100%, and of course, went back in action on Sunday. Did a little extra physicality as a part of the show, but you know, it's just an exciting time for me to back to a business that I really, really love, and you know, I never thought I'd be back in a ring, but there we were headlining main event, headlining WrestleMania for night 1, and it was just truly an honor to be out there and really excited to be out there." Following his shocking release from WWE in July, fans are hoping that Bray Wyatt will make his return to pro wrestling. Now, Dave Meltzer has noted that in regards to his free agency, his asking price is very high. I know it's my site, but WWE would be interested in almost any top AEW act right now. Also, AEW would be interested in virtually any WWE top act right now. On his Strictly Business podcast, former WCW president Eric Bischoff would touch on the return of Cody Rhodes to WWE, noting that Tony Khan has made mistakes in regards to trademarking ideas in AEW. I use Chris Jericho for example. He's out there applying for trademarks on intellectual property that is created while Chris is under contract to AEW and being positioned on AEW, but Jericho owns the trademarks or he's applying for it. There's an example of somebody who's not focusing on intellectual property as it relates to the value of his brand, being AEW, Tony Khan's company. When you're allowing talent to create ideas that are then executed on television and you don't own those trademarks or ideas, that's not smart. Want an example? The American Nightmare. How could it be that somebody as high profile as Cody Rhodes and the American Nightmare brand are able to establish that brand in AEW and then take it with them and use it as leverage to negotiate a deal somewhere else? There is an example of what happens when you don't control your intellectual property. And if I'm Tony Khan, I'm kicking myself in the balls all day long over that. If I'm WWE, WWE, that's a choice. Do I want to take advantage of the fact that I can utilize a trademark that was established somewhere else, and I can bring it over here and build upon it? Instead of it being worth $10, it'll be worth $100? Or do I want to give him a new name so I can own it? Despite him coming up with the American Nightmare before AEW, Bischoff would also note that Khan could have purchased the rights to the character of Cody Rhodes. That would have been something that was negotiable when AEW first started. Maybe he came up with it on an indie show somewhere, but it wasn't being monetized. It was just something cool that he did with the logo and the tattoo. That is something that Tony Khan, I believe I could be wrong, but that could have been negotiated and Tony Khan could have owned that trademark. Former NXT Women's Champion Raquel Rodriguez recently made her first televised appearance on Smackdown in the form of a backstage interview. Raquel revealed on Busted Open Radio that she was given specific instructions before this segment. When I first started at the PC, to a lot of the coaches, Matt Bloom always got mad at me for constantly walking around the PC, no cameras on. It was just practice for smiling. He was like, you need to learn how to stop smiling. You gotta stop. You gotta stop smiling. You gotta be intimidating. You gotta, this. But I get so excited about being in this position because it's something that I've always wanted and something that I've sacrificed and worked so hard for. I can't help but smile. And so coming up to SmackDown, I was fully ready not to smile. I was fully ready to be this intimidating bad mother, and put that on the screen. But the thing they asked for me was to smile. So honestly, at this point in my career, I feel comfortable doing both. And this was your Pro Wrestling News Update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.